cake.
Who took the bomb?
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of The Peasant's Perspective. I'm sitting really big in the camera today. Mikey's going to like that. Not that he's probably listening right now. Welcome, guys. It was a great weekend. Again, another one of these busy news weekends. So many of the stories that come out 5 or 6 or 7 years ago would have been week-long topics. I mean, we had the president of the United States call the president of Colombia a drug dealer. Like, called him a drug dealer and then cut off all funding to Colombia. Like, I mean, we should talk about that for the next 3 or 4 years. But instead, we might not even get to it in this episode.
Well, it seems like for the last 4 or 5 years that there was just story after story to cover up the last cover up. It was like it was so fast because they had to keep it going so that we couldn't talk about whatever was happening because it was like, you know what I mean?
That's what it feels like now. It feels like, bam, bam, bam.
It just accelerated.
But it's not by design. It's by design by the Republicans to keep the Democrats off-footed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like by the time you get your lawsuit filed, there's 3 more you need to stay up all night and work on. So they're like having to pick their battles. They can't pick all the battles. They've pinned themselves in a corner with this government shutdown thing because, time in memoriam, they've blamed the government, the party in power for the shutdown. And now the party in power is like, we voted on it every time. Like they've completely flipped the script. Usually it's the party in power that won't vote on it.
Right.
It's the party out of power that anyways, it's really interesting. Frazier says it's cold morning in Idaho, but good morning anyways. It is getting a little chilly. There's a little bit nip in the air. Pray the Rosary Daily. Good morning. Welcome. And of course, John Atakis, welcome. Our daily dedicated listeners. Well, Donald Trump was asked about peace in the Middle East because, as you would imagine, with any ceasefire, it's going to get violated. And one of the things that is especially tricky about this ceasefire, and any ceasefire would fall into this category, but the Palestinians and the Jews live pretty close together. They're just right over there. So they're not like on top of each other. I mean, Gaza is a separate space from Tel Aviv or whatever, but they're close. Can we admit that? And not only that, but inside of the nation of Israel, there's quite a few Muslims and people who might have sympathies because they have been an open Western democracy that allows everybody to live there.
This is like living next to a neighbor you have a restraining order on.
That's exactly what it is. Living next to the neighbor with a restraining order. Now, the other thing about Hamas and Hezbollah as well, but we're talking about Hamas right now, they've been devastated. Their leadership has been knocked out. Their main leaders are all gone. Their sub-leaders are gone. Their lieutenants are gone. I mean, we're basically dealing with the corporals at this point, right? Like we got a peace settlement with some corporals. Well, over the weekend, a lot of these Palestinians still inside of Gaza were, bringing out the people who worked with the enemy, whoever the enemy is. I don't think they were working with Israel, but working with whatever sympathetic Palestinian coalition, right? We're getting executed in the streets. And of course, there's a little bit more skirmish fighting happening. The Jews have come in and done some stuff, allegedly. Never want to say that affirmatively. Right? I bet YouTube's not here commenting anymore, but I'm just saying possibly there's been stories on
everything is alleged
channel websites. Yeah. As far as I know, the Jews are the best, but anyways,
the other side was allegedly running away.
Yeah, the other side was allegedly running away. Yeah, I don't know how they got shot. Anyways, so Donald Trump commented about this, about how there's still a little bit of fighting going on, and that's okay. It's just the little peons. We'll take care of it. Buffering. It was going to be a great transition. Anytime Donald Trump can finish my sentence, it's going to be a good. All right, I'm going to hit refresh on this.
Wow.
Is what it is. All right, so Donald Trump.
What's your reaction to Israel strikes on Gaza today?
Well, we're going to have to see what's happening. We want to make sure that it's going to be very peaceful with Hamas. As they've been quite rambunctious. They've been doing some shooting, and we think maybe the leadership isn't involved in that. Some rebels within, but either way, it's going to be handled properly. It's going to be handled toughly but properly.
Is the ceasefire still in place?
Donald Trump has this incredible ability to take what would normally be a loss, right? We don't want a ceasefire, says Hamas. Hey, look, Netanyahu, they said yes partially. Let's take the yes, right? He basically twists everybody's arms, gets the Arab world pressuring Hamas, gets the West pressuring Israel. They sign on to this ceasefire deal. And now if anybody breaks the ceasefire, you've got the Arab world if it's Hamas, you've got the Western world if it's Israel. And of course they're going to break the ceasefire. And Trump's like, no, ceasefire is not broken. It's just little skirmishes. We'll deal with it toughly. First of all, great on you, because a couple bullets flying from some rogues could upturn all of this Middle East peace, right? And he's basically putting it back where it should have always been considered. It's just a couple rogues. Kill them. You know what I mean? Solution solved. Like, we've got peace. I love it. Now, this pragmatic approach at solving world conflicts is something unique that we've seen in a president. Here's Donald Trump talking about how other presidents start wars, but they never finish it.
To the best of my knowledge, we've never had a president that solved one war. Not one war. Bush started a war. A lot of them start wars, but they don't solve the wars. They don't settle them. And especially when they have nothing to do with us. I guess just about all of these wars had nothing to do with us. But I saved tens of millions of lives. The Prime Minister of Pakistan said, I saved millions of lives in interceding on Pakistan. And you look at Pakistan and India as an example. That would have been a bad one, two nuclear nations, right? So I say this. This is pretty much the last one, although I do understand that Pakistan attacked, or there is an attack going on with Afghanistan. That's an easy one for me to solve if I have to solve it. In the meantime, I have to run the USA, but I love solving.
Turn off your cameras.
You know why? I like stopping
Nobody
people
would
from
even
being
know.
killed. And I've saved millions and millions of lives. And I think we're going to have success with this war.
Donald Trump one time said, why do you brag about yourself so much? He's like, because no one else will. If I don't say it, no one else will say it. If you guys would report good news, I wouldn't have to say any of it. Yeah. It's true. None of the news is going to say Donald Trump saved 10 million lives. They're going to be like, Donald Trump cost a transgender's reassignment surgery.
Find me the story.
Yeah, exactly. So Trump's attitude, again, it's a matter of stop the killing. The land becomes irrelevant if you're killing on the land, right? He understands like this basic concept of peasant perspective, right? Like you can't have any political ideology if you're dead. Okay. So when it comes to this Ukraine-Russia conflict, the proposal that he's made to both Russia and Ukraine is just stop where you're at. Let's stop arguing over territory. You've already conquered what you're going to conquer. Ukraine pushed a little into Russia. Russia pushed quite a bit into Ukraine, right? But just stop.
During that meeting, did you tell him he needed to cede all of the Donbass region to Russia?
No, we never discussed it. We think that what they should do is just stop at the lines where they are, the battle lines. You have a battle line right now. The rest is very tough to negotiate. If you're going to say, you take this, we take that, there's so many different permutations. So what I say is they should stop right now at the battle lines. Go home, stop killing people, and be done.
What do you think should happen with the Donbass region?
Let it be cut the way it is. It's cut up right now. I think 78% of the land is already taken by Russia. You leave it the way it is right now. They can negotiate something later on down the line. But I said, cut and stop at the battle line. Go home. Stop fighting. Stop killing people.
The big thing with this is the land that they're fighting over. I mean, it's got farm utility. Some of it's like the Kansas of Eurasian steppe,
the breadbasket.
Yeah. But they've depopulated these areas. Like the areas on both sides of these lines, the areas that Russia's taken over, they've, quote, liberated these people, but they've also very much depopulated. Like some of them fled into Ukraine, some of them fled into Russia, depending on, I guess, what your,
well, if it is like a breadbasket Midwest type thing, it wouldn't be that hard to get all the people out because farmers, it's very low density.
Yeah, it is. But to me, it makes sense. Just stop fighting. Wherever lines you've got, they've obviously some kind of barriers on where you've advanced. But this has become a drone war. There's so many things about this that suck, right? Now we're negotiating Tomahawk missiles, and some people are like, well, the Tomahawk missiles wouldn't even do very good. It's like, yeah, but it would cost Russia $1 million to shoot one down. Whereas right now they're shooting down drones for 72 cents. So it changes the financial outlook. Everything is on the table in this conflict. It's economic, it's territorial, it's ideological, it's got a lot of moving pieces here for sure. I saw this clip, and this was a continuation of a clip we played on Friday talking about how white Republicans are just inherently racist and they're always race baiting. And this is the same commentator talking about how America just broke when we got that fine, lovely black president.
We haven't felt the same since Obama. And something broke in white people that had some racism. Some white people had some racism stewing in them in communities that I grew up in a totally red state. And something broke in them when there was a competent, wonderful black president, maybe they disagreed with, that was eating off the china, sleeping in the bed.
You guys missed Ron's face. Wonderful black president.
And I remember in Oklahoma City when Obama came, he was greeted with Confederate flags in Oklahoma City. So all of this was there. And you remember that John McCain debate where John tried to tone that woman down. It was all there. None of this surprises me. As a person that lived in a red state, I always looked for the federal government to temper all of this. And to Miles's point, now that this is mainstream, it's just devastating.
I find, okay, so
who is she?
Who cares? Jennifer Welch. So I find political science, right? My degree. What's the difference between the Democrats and the Republicans? Please make it simple. One paragraph, right? The Democrats favor a strong federal government with weaker state governments, right? So you have a centralized command center, so to speak. A Republican form of government, or Republicans, the party, focuses on a localized governance. The closer you are to the people who rule over you, the easier it is to touch them, talk to them, and compel them. Federal government, they want the top because there's more power to compel the smaller states.
Top down.
Yes. So basic difference. Now, things have changed completely. Donald Trump, on one side, he wants to push economic power down to the people and the states, but he's more than willing to use very strong federal tools that have been given to him by Democrats over the years, right, in order to accomplish that. And now you've got the Democrats who've completely flopped because now they don't control the federal levers, so they don't want to focus on federal power, federal enforcement like they did during COVID. Now they're neo-Confederates. They want state powers, and states can overrule the federal government. And gosh darn it, we're going to pass laws to regulate ICE and their masks. And you know what I mean?
And they want to talk directly to your local health district.
So it becomes very confusing for me, who's like, well, I want local politics where I can control it. If you just turned on the news today and listened to Gavin Newsom, you'd think he was someone who was a Republican of 10 or 20 or 30 years ago, right? Because he wants state power. He doesn't want this strong federal bureaucracy. Right. It's just like 3 weeks ago, you wanted a strong federal government so that you could convince the national government to adopt California state rules, right? For autos and housing and all these other things.
But that's only when he thought that was going to rule the day.
Exactly. Now, we all know everybody hates a sore loser, right? Donnie Deutsch in December 2020, after Trump won the election, was on MSNBC saying this about how people hate sore losers. And I find this kind of funny because you fast forward far enough in time and the pendulum always swings, doesn't it?
Like a sore loser. They like a comeback story. But there's just something in our culture, who we are, what we're about, that a sore loser is kind of bottom of the food chain. And I think that's going to stick with Trump. You know, we've seen you mentioned those polls, the Gallup poll, he's lost 6 points in approval ratings since the election, whereas most candidates who actually lost the election, they grow in approval, ironically. Trump's going backwards. And I do think this kind of sore loser, whiny little, I'm going to use a word I'm not going to use because then I won't be able to be on the show anymore, just sticks with him. And I think as time moves on, and as the vaccine gets into people's arms, and as the economy continues to grow, I think it will continue to stay strong. And as we are dealing with a little peace as opposed to chaos, I think Donald Trump will be a moment in time. I don't think Donald Trump is permanent. I don't think Donald Trump is the future of the Republican Party. I think he will go back to that kind of little maggot-infested place that he was in, this kind of like P.T. Barnum circus reality critter, and that's what he'll be. But if you look at him now, and I challenge everybody at home as you watch Donald Trump, as you watch images, I know I used to see those images or hear him, and I would squirm, and I would get angry, and I would get frightened. Now you kind of chuckle. And he looks weak, and he feels weak, and he sounds weak. And as the great Karl Rove said, he's just a little baby sore loser.
I love fast forward a sore loser. He came back and won. I wonder how Donnie Deutsch feels now. America does love a comeback story, Donnie. He does love a comeback story. There was something he said in there about Donald Trump when he said he'll be just a blip. Do you think these guys expected this at all?
No.
That Donald Trump could make a comeback, that he would survive the lawfare?
No.
It's like, I don't know what they need. Maybe speed up Jack Smith. I found out this weekend there was something that I was unaware of in the Jack Smith case. So when Jack Smith was at The Hague, when he was in the international court, one of the things he was tasked to prosecute was all the war criminals out of that Kosovo war way back when. Do you remember this? And there was a lot of people who were, guilty of committing large amounts of atrocities, murders, and things like that. Jack Smith was sending out his little lawyer minions to go talk to these warlords that were going to be put on trial for crimes against humanity and extorting bribes out of them, like $1 million to not go on trial. This is all documented, and it was put into a whistleblower complaint in one of Jack Smith's hearings, which is what delayed it long enough to basically make it so Trump didn't go to trial, because they never resolved it. They just kind of had this big delay tactic, right? Yeah, he was taking bribes.
What the fuck?
He was taking bribes, and they put the president of Kosovo, who was trying to prosecute those people, in prison. He's currently in prison right now. This was Jack Smith over in Hague. Yeah. When Patrick Burns said they were planning on putting us in stadiums, prosecuting 1,250 at a time. This is essentially what they were doing with those Kosovo people, and then you could buy your way out.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, crazy. Okay, so we had this No Kings rally this weekend.
Oh, this is what my...
Yeah, big No Kings rally. So let's see how it kicked off. Adam Schiff was in D.C., and he was there to get the No Kings rally kicked off there. Real excited.
And that is what we are doing today. We are gathered on this great mall to defend our democracy. To say hell no to...
So the new thing with Antifa now is to mock being terrorists, and they're dressing up as furries, and they're dressing up in blow up Halloween costumes that people put on. Those are Antifa. Those are not maybe grandma dresses up like that every now and then for one of these, but those are Antifa. They're trying to create this illusion that they're not violent, and not aggressive. Pretty interesting.
We are not going back.
Lots of flags.
Our founders listed a long set of grievances against having a king, that troops were sequestered among us, that the justice system was perverted, that the king was imposing tariffs on us. If you look at the long list of grievances of our founders, you will see just how familiar they sound.
I just heard Ann Vandersteel saying this the other day. Just the other day I heard this.
And we are gathered today to say, we will defend our democracy. We support our democracy. Hell no to kings. Hell no to kings. And I thank you for being here, because it is a million acts of patriotism that we're seeing all over the country today, of courage, of speaking out, that are going to save this country. Thank you so much, everyone.
So apparently I can see why the government at large is so afraid of 1776 and founding father talk, because both the Democrats and the Republicans can draw on the founding fathers and what they really intended to get there. They wanted a democracy. Did they, Adam? I seem to recall all of them have pretty significant quotes against democracy and demagoguery. You know what I mean? But whatever, Adam. Now, MSNBC got busted with this live video footage, and you're going to hear numbers. 7 million people, largest rally ever. This is the third largest rally ever. Okay. It's all fake. It's all fake, Ron. This is another one of those situations where you cannot trust any of the coverage or the reporting on these events. When we just watched that video with Adam Schiff, there's no more than 1,000 people, max, super high number.
There's nobody behind him
in that footage. There's a couple, maybe 100 people kind of dressed
up. If you
up.
had 1 million people, there would be no standing room, and you wouldn't be able to see grass.
Now, MSNBC, a news channel who purports to put out news, put out this live clip. This was live broadcast on their show, and they were saying how many people showed up at this event. Look at how large the gathering is. There's only one problem.
Look at this. Millions of people across the country marching as we speak against the policies of President Trump. This is Boston. Look at that. We'll continue to follow these rallies throughout the day here on MSNBC.
Oh, here's the problem. So MSNBC, look at this live shot. It says live right there in their feed. Problem is, community notes came in. This video is from 2017 Boston protests, not today's No Kings rally, which is indeed a large event with tens of thousands attending per reports.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's not millions, and it's not this picture.
Yeah.
It's not millions, and this is not your aerial helicopter shot from just now. You're not reporting traffic live. Okay, there's nothing these people do that's redeemable. You can't even trust something simple like showing a live feed of a protest.
Yeah.
How stock footage? Really? Put live on it, and you're trying to tell me, oh, millions of.
Taylor, imagine if they had shown the live shot.
It'd be like 22
How disappointing would it
That's
be?
the problem. You know what? You'll never see live shots of January 6th, aerial shots. You'll never see them. I went through a whole trial and I never saw one. You telling me they grounded all the drones? You telling me they didn't take one picture from on top of an apartment building, or that the government itself didn't have their satellites zoned in?
Well, I think we showed some shots on our podcast, and
we did. I had
shocking.
Could not see the end of the people.
Yes, it was shocking to me.
Now, I'm not saying No Kings or BLM or Antifa can't pull out a protest or can't dump people in the streets. Shoot, I saw when Seattle won the Super Bowl how many people showed up.
Well, I think we need to bring USAID back so they can fund it.
Funny you would mention that. Mike Benz was out at one of these protests live, and he saw something.
It's like the ending scene from The Sopranos out here.
Best part right now.
What?
I just think.
What?
Yes, Ron, we should get some USAID out there. Here's a worker working the protest, handing out who knows what.
So funny. USA leading it, baby.
This was not a setup. I didn't know you were going to play this.
No, you did not. Just so you know, Ron doesn't know a single thing that's coming up. He walks in 42 seconds before we go live.
That's so true.
What happened this weekend?
It is so
I'm
true.
like, well, I'm about to tell you, Ron. All right, guys, don't forget to share the show. Please, it helps us so much when you retweet it, when you post comments, helps with the algorithm, helps share it. So please do if you get a chance. Yes, very funny. So the No Kings protest this weekend, my confidence level that we're getting reporting on mainstream news about how big they were are zero. If MSNBC can't even show a live clip, I can't be confident. We've seen two clips of the DC No Kings, which presumably those are usually the really, really large ones, right? It's like part of the culture in DC to go and do these events. Not a lot of people there. Not a lot of people there.
Did they have any events with interactions or anything? Any controversy? Anything burning down?
You know, in Portland, it got a little hot at night, but then again, I'm using the same rule for, to apply. Yeah. I don't know that footage was from last night or this weekend. It could have been from 2, 3, 4 years ago. I'm giving a little bit of airtime to the Portland police chief who said part of the challenge is social media. We're dealing with video clips from 4 years ago, acting like it happened last night because it was in the same spot.
Yeah.
But really, it's long ago. So in fairness, I don't know.
The whole furry move to me seems a little bit weird, but it also seems like they were anticipating some kind of interaction with somebody else that just didn't happen for whatever reason. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? This is JD Vance talking about people who incite these riots. Now, the source, there was listing of funding that came out, and it came out in multiple places from people who are credible, like regularly post things that check out as far as like financial auditing and stuff like that. But it sounds like there's about $297 million spent this weekend to organize these rallies. And it was things from the Tides Foundation, Soros, Ford, Rockefeller. There was a couple other big fund. I mean, we're talking, these guys dumped tens of millions collectively to, $370 million to organize this rally. So JD Vance was being asked about this because, again, this weekend, I didn't hear of any real violence. I didn't hear any Republicans point the finger and go, right here in Portland or right here in Minneapolis, there's a problem. But JD Vance is like, it doesn't really matter because you guys have been funding riots. And a lot of these events have gotten pretty violent, and they are looking at the
People want to see people go to jail for this.
Well, first of all, people will go to jail for this, but the President of the United States has made very clear we're taking a whole of government approach to this. We're looking at the funding networks. We're looking at the people who are inciting violence. We're looking at the people who are promoting and encouraging violence. That takes time to do it the right way, Laura. We're going to make sure that we do this the right way.
With First Amendment
I understand.
concerns.
Well, of course, you have to protect people's First Amendment rights. You have to protect people's free speech rights. But the First Amendment does not protect imminent incitements to violence. If you are actively promoting your fellow man to kill other people, that is not protected by the First Amendment, and we have to be clear about that. We have to go after that stuff. But
I think the big thing is a lot of the rhetoric that people on the left
want to see people go to jail for this.
Like, we're going to kill them, or even when we say something like we're going to stand and fight, what does that mean? Right? That language, if you're funding protests that turn out to be violent, and even if you didn't intend them to be violent, even if you didn't think so, how do you separate the fruit from the tree? You know what I mean? And I think that's where a lot of, like Soros, he can just walk around with clean hands. Oh, I'm funding great causes. Yeah, you're funding great causes that cause an extreme amount of disturbance in our local communities. Are you accountable? This administration pretends that they're going to hold them accountable. We will see. We will see, because any names that they bring down have to be big. If they go after some no-name, group and some mid-level, CFO, I won't be particularly satisfied. Maybe within the NGO community, that'll be like a shot across the bow. But unless I see somebody that's the head of one of these groups, like legitimately the head trustee for Ford Foundation or a Soros, I'm just going to be like, you kind of got it on the margins. You know what I mean? You kind of got it on the margins. This is Robert De Niro, always something very, very clean punditry for politics. He sees the problem is this: we just have these people in the Midwest that just can't get enough MSNBC. That's really the only problem.
Trying to signal to the people they reach, and I'm certainly not reaching those people on this program, but maybe through little sound bites and this and that, and the internet and so on. They're trying to. They're used to seeing Trump do his stuff, and they talk and they listen, and that's the truth to them because they don't listen to anything else except somewhere way out in the Midwest, somewhere out out west, in certain places, the rural places. That's the truth because he gets the airtime. And I think that we need more airtime, just more push against, and not. I wish that you can't do this in some ways, but that the news media could find ways to kind of ignore or tamp down nonsense from Trump. Is
that censorship?
Just total nonsense. But those people out there listen to it and assume if it can be on the air and it's out there, it's the truth.
Mr. De Niro,
trying to signal to the people.
Okay, so if it's on the air, it's out there, it's truth. So everything they say, you should just roll with. Like, why would you doubt any of it? Is it here that has there's not. Where's the funny? There's something that maybe we'll get to it later. There's all the things that the government's lied to us about, like in very recent memory. It was a huge list. It was like, oh, dang. All right. If it comes back up, we'll play it. We'll read it. So the problem, Ron, is just out in the rural hinterlands, the Midwest and some places out in the West, they just don't get enough MSNBC. And if the news would just not report the good things Trump does, and they would just, pretend he doesn't exist, maybe we can run him out of office. So you're advocating censorship, totalitarianism, and neo-feudalism. Yeah. Trump obviously is like, I'm not a king. This is silly.
Do you think that the government shutdown is all about this rally that's happening this weekend, the No Kings rally?
No, I mean, some people say they want to delay it for that. A king. This is more than a king. They're referring to me as a king. I'm not a king.
Right. No, but just so that Chuck Schumer could go and say, I'm fighting Trump.
Well, Chuck is, at the end of the line. He's being beaten by everybody that they poll against him. And, what he did is he did the right thing a couple of years ago on something like this. And he got hurt by his party. And it doesn't, I don't think it matters to him. I think he's just so dead that he'll do anything. I think they could just stay out forever. I mean, to be honest with you. Now, what we're doing is we're cutting Democrat programs that we didn't want because, they made one mistake. They didn't realize that gives me the right to cut programs that Republicans never wanted, giveaways, welfare programs, etc. And we're doing that, and we're cutting them permanently. We're cutting a $20 billion project that Schumer fought for 15 years to get, and I'm cutting the project. The project is going to be dead. It is pretty much dead right now.
One of my beliefs is that Republicans abhor causing pain to get their policy objectives. They don't want to break it to fix it. That is not a conservative's instinct. They want to fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it. They do not want to break it. They do not want to see something that was built by their grandparents be broken. They want to put some new plaster on it. Okay? Democrats have no problem putting their constituency through pain. None whatsoever. Okay. I do not, based on all of their linguistics and their language, they do not care about you other than to bribe you for your vote. Here's a program you might get if we get your vote. There's no accountability to how those programs run or where they go. And even again, how much pain can 20 million people come across the border in 4 years cause for our constituents? Oh, irrelevant. We just want votes. And we're not getting the ones that are there because we don't want to serve them. They're too
that'll
expensive.
pale in comparison to the 30 million people we bring in next time.
Yeah, the benefits for a legacy white American, right, are too small to control them. We can load up the immigrants. You know what I'm saying? So they've kind of broken how they approach things. They cannot help their constituents. They hate them. And they're willing to let things break, which does make me wonder if they're holding off the hardcore left on this government shutdown because they want to create so much dissatisfaction in their echo chambers, people who lost their jobs, government workers and stuff like that. Yeah. That's what I believe.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I believe. And you know this is the case because they have a serious problem with employment, which we're going to end up talking to. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and we're on the topic of
employment.
We're on the topic of employment.
Yeah. I mean, most government workers are one persuasion.
Yeah. Oh, well, I guess we're not going to find out about the insurrection.
Dang it.
Okay. So this is a American driving through Arches National Park during the government shutdown. It's probably become one of the most pleasurable park experiences you can have.
All right. Day 11, government shutdown, Arches National Park, and here. All right.
There's no one working the toll.
Guess we don't need a reservation to access our own government land. Woohoo!
That sounds like you're on.
It's open.
Richard, I promise to protect.
Arches are still arching. Balance rock still
kids.
Balancing. All right.
So the
rocks are still balancing.
So Trump is operating this government shutdown so much different than Obama operated his government shutdown. He closed the parks, no access, no nothing. He wanted to cause pain in order to get,
which is total BS, if you ask me.
Oh, totally. Whereas Trump is got private donors paying the military, getting money from stagnant R&D budgets. What was the other department that got their payroll? Oh, TSA found some money to pay people. So they're doing everything they can to keep essential workers paid, right? But you've got to understand, in the area, especially around D.C., that tri-state northeastern region where there's K Street money, Washington money, government jobs, this is Governor Shapiro in Pennsylvania saying something that should send shivers through your spine, right? When you talk about the Democrats willing to let their constituents go through pain, and you talk about the dependency of the people on the government, listen to this and tell me if this doesn't just absolutely throttle you.
Largest employer in Pennsylvania is the federal government. Second largest is the state government.
Okay, here it again.
Wow.
Okay, Pennsylvania, big state, right? Lots of oil, lots of farming.
Largest employer in Pennsylvania is the federal government. Second largest is the state government.
Okay, so the number one and number two largest employers in the state of Pennsylvania, the government.
Wow.
Interesting. Sounds like redistribution of wealth. Sounds like everybody gets a job. This sounds very collectivist, doesn't it? How do you get to a point where the government is a larger employer than private businesses?
How are other states doing?
Do we even want to ask, Rob?
No, not really.
Want to ask?
And I'm proud to be colleagues with 80,000 people who work for our state government. I work with them every single day. I'm proud of them. I'm proud of the work that they do, from the folks who clean our buildings to the people that go out and, test for, public health issues out in our rural communities. I value the work that they do. The idea that some of them are being asked to go to work without pay, that the largest employer in our state is not paying their employees, that has a real negative impact to the point you're making. I mean, these are folks who still need to go to the grocery store. They still need.
That is an incredible amount of pain that your party is putting on your state. Think about that.
To pay for their kids' childcare. They still need to get their kid the baseball bat they need for Little League, whatever. And
wait, so now the government is responsible for baseball bats? I know as a small business owner, I felt responsible to put food on my employer's tables, right? Like I felt like, the employee comes and, hey, my kid needs braces.
Hey, if their plan works out, they're going to buy everything for everybody.
These are my friends. These are my employees. That's the attitude here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but they're being sacrificed at the altar of this shutdown. You're causing them a lot of pain. And that doesn't even go with the conversation of how do we get in a spot where the government is the number one and number two employer?
They're not. I think what's different about this shutdown than past. In the past, they were kind of guaranteed they were going to get their money back at the end of it. And so it sucks, but they probably thought, okay, I can get through a week or two or three, but I'm going to get all that money back. The way Donald Trump is doing things, the way these people around him are doing things, I don't think they know they're going to get their money back. And so it's not just about kind of floating through 3 weeks, right? Maybe dip in the savings, put the money back to the extent that you have the savings. This is really serious stuff because they don't know that they're going to get that back pay.
Nope.
Kind of like someone on the civil side, us lowly people who work for the third largest and beyond employers, maybe don't have the lobby and influence that the largest employer has. Okay, so the government has a private stake. Do you understand how this is broken?
I don't know
the
if you can
government
even
is
call
on
that
all
a lobby.
sides of this negotiation. The vested interest. There's some phrase. It was like, don't ever try to convince a man that he's wrong when his entire livelihood depends on being wrong or something like that. It's like working for the government. Yeah, you're subject to the people. They're your boss, not Donald Trump, not anybody else. And guess what? Donald Trump, was hired to come in and clean house. And I just look at a state like Pennsylvania and go, how did you get I would understand the District of Columbia, right? More people being employed by the government or something like that. But
yeah,
Pennsylvania, like it's not even connecting like directly to, Philadelphia it's not far. But,
well, it is the Keystone State.
But for one employer, it's stunning.
Yeah.
Do you remember about 2 months ago, we got kind of excited because a whole bunch of prominent Democrats and a few Republicans like Chris Wray and a couple others were supposed to come testify in Congress over the last month about Epstein and about the grand conspiracy case. Well, a few of those depositions and hearings have happened. They've been behind closed doors. But I guess the Clintons just decided they were too busy in their retired life to be able to show up to a congressional subpoena and a hearing. So they just didn't come.
Okay.
So they're working on accommodating them.
Bill and Hillary Clinton missed their scheduled depositions to the House Oversight Committee over their alleged connection to Jeffrey Epstein. Now the panel's working to accommodate the retiree's schedule. Keyword there, they're retired.
Look, I don't think that there should be any accommodations made for these people. You have Congress. They did a whole lot worse to President Trump and everyone around him, especially after January 6th. But I think Bill and Hillary Clinton should be required to come in really at the convenience of Congress, because as you know, there's a lot of staffers and it's hard to get those depositions on the books. But I think it's more importantly to note that, the Democrats didn't think that they would actually have to send a subpoena to these people. And as you know, they used the Epstein files as a political way to smear the president. And so I'm all for transparency, and I think that these people should be required to come in.
Oh, is this a good for the goose, good for the gander? Oh, Epstein, Trump. All right, well, let's get to the bottom of Epstein. Everybody associated, let's interview him. Let's see if Bill Clinton's ever been with Epstein and Trump before. We have to bring him in to ask him that question. There's only look at Trump. You should only be being subpoenaing Trump and his friends. When did you stop beating your wife, Dan Scavino? You know what I mean?
Right after I retired myself.
I don't have time for these silly depositions. I can't remember.
Pretty much.
This is your reality, right? This is what we got. We got a bunch of politicians that, for Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon don't show up for a hearing and you go to prison. For Bill and Hillary Clinton.
If you
we'll
really
just
want to
accommodate
cover
your
it up
retirement a little bit better.
You should have sent some money to the No Kings protest.
It's not like you didn't have 2 months to plan for this. Put it on your calendar, clear the events. What did you go that was more important to you than a congressional hearing and a skiff? You know what I mean?
They went to the No Kings protest.
Yeah. Now, George Santos, you remember George Santos, our fearless gay Republican representative from New York? So our fearless gay Republican representative from New York, who lied about himself incessantly, allegedly was a cross-dresser down in Brazil, denied that except photos came out of it, said he worked at Harvard or something like that, or said he worked at Goldman Sachs, didn't, was a consultant for some third-party company, right? Overinflated his resume as he was running for Congress. And then on top of that, throughout the course of his campaign, he misused about $50,000 worth of campaign funds. 50. That's four zeros after the 5, not 6 zeros, not 9 zeros, nothing like Stacey Abrams with $2 million. We're talking $50,000 of misused campaign funds that mostly came from people's donations, like they sign up to make a donation, and then they don't uncheck the box that makes it monthly recurring. So it was mostly recurring charges. Like I made $25 donation this month. Next. So it wasn't even that he misused the funds. It's that he raised funds without the people knowing that they were going to be donating monthly.
Oh.
Okay. So it's not even an allegation necessarily that he misused it. It's that, apparently for him and him alone, you can only take monthly donations. But for Act Blue, don't worry. We can take tens of thousands of reoccurring donations for people that don't even aware they're making donations. Right. So he got a 87-month prison sentence. That's the same sentence I got. His co-conspirators got way less. One of them didn't even get prison time. So he was released this weekend by Donald Trump. He spent 41 days in solitary confinement, was just barely released into general population, and Donald Trump commuted his sentence. When he commuted his sentence, I should have pulled up the Truth Social, but Donald Trump made the comparison to Da Nang Dick, right? The senator that lied about going to Vietnam and serving in the trenches and shooting,
stolen valor.
Totally. So Trump's like, listen, if he lied about being a cross-dresser, not as big a deal as you lying with stolen valor. Like most people actually put that on the bigger scale of offense. You know what I mean? Who cares if you lied about your picadillos or I didn't do it. I didn't dress like a girl. You lied about going to war. You know what I mean? Like not the same world. So anyways, George Santos got released and he made the media rounds this weekend.
Thank you to President Trump for clemency and for having such an amazing will for second chances. I feel like it's justice served in the sense of I've made some poor choices in my life, but nothing would warrant a insane, arbitrary sentence. But on top of that, a sentence that no one else would have gotten, a treatment that no one else would have gotten, 41 days in isolation in the SHU. And to add insult to injury, I had 2 co-defendants, one who got probation, one who was me, who got 7 years, and the other one who's still in the same facility today, suffering the same thing. Sam Mealy is still sitting in there, which I still think it's a great injustice. All non-violent first-time offenders with no criminal background, and we're being thrown in this harsh environment with absolutely nothing. So when I spoke to President Trump yesterday, I told him my commitment would be to prison reform. I told him my commitment would be to fighting to help Sam Mealy and so many other people who are being absolutely drowned with this arbitrary sentencing style of judges who are trying to circumvent the First Step Act.
I agree with that. There are a lot of judges who try to circumvent the Step Act in the way they charge people and the different things they get added, because there's a lot of things that eliminate the First Step Act availability. But the Geneva Convention says you can only go into solitary for 14 days. That's the Geneva Convention. He just spent 41 days solitary. And there are inmates in the United States that have spent years and years and years on end for solitary. And the Bureau of Prisons will tell you it's because of their own doing or whatever. Okay. Like, it's not like you can take that tool away from them. Isolation, segregation, the special housing unit. But at the same time, oh my goodness, 41 days for a first-time white-collar offender? I mean, this guy just wore a suede suit coat on the Fox News. Like, this guy's not cut out for the oranges. He's not cut out for prison. So I found it pretty rough myself. Okay. I mean, it was not fun. I actually think he looks pretty good for having just come out of the SHU. I really do. He was on CNN and shared some more details.
Just read to you something that your fellow New York Republican, the Congressman Nick LaLota, tweeted after he saw that your sentence was commuted. He said, George Santos didn't merely lie. He stole millions, frauded an election, and his crimes, for which he pled guilty, warrant more than a 3-month sentence. He should devote the rest of his life to demonstrating remorse and making restitution to those he wronged. Another New York Republican, Congressman Andrew Garbarino, who is part of the ethics committee, at least he was when they were investigating you, said your victims haven't been made whole and that, quote, he has shown no remorse. The less than 3 months that he spent in prison is not justice. What's your response?
Look, they're entitled to their opinion. Look, Dana, this isn't about tit for tat. It's not about revenge. It's not about retribution. It's obvious they are my critics, and they have the right to do that. And they have the right to say whatever they're saying. I'm not going to sit here and go on my former colleagues, Lilota and Garbarino. It's just, that's not what it's about. For me, I'm looking at this very simply, Dana. I'm going to look to the future. I've learned a great deal and a very large slice of humble pie, if not the entire pie, for the experience I had at FCI Ferriton under the care of Warden Kelly. But I will say that this isn't about that. I don't want to rehash and go into these things. Life is too short. I have been granted a second chance. I have made a very concise decision to apply that for good and use that to make amends with my community, with my friends, with my family, and those who I have left a sour taste in their mouth. And hopefully one day get my critics to at least appreciate that I've turned around and done better with my life. This isn't about, glitter, stars, and glam or going back to Congress. So it's really not. This is a very personal journey and road for me ahead. It is not going to be easy. I am still a felon. I still wear the scorn of my poor choices and my poor decisions, and I have to fight that myself. Now, if you want to talk about my sentence, look, I argue there were three defendants in my case, myself, my treasurer, and a former staffer. My treasurer gets a 3-year probation sentence, which is appropriate for a first-time nonviolent white-collar crime. I get a 7-year disproportionate sentence that is anything but political if you talk to anybody who really looks at these kind of cases. And then you look at my staffer, who's still sitting in FCI Ferriton, which Sam Mealy unfairly. So you really need to take this and see what's equitable here. So I still think for it to be equitable, Sam Mealy should have a commutation afforded to him. And I think that probation would have been the appropriate sentence from the get. Restitution, probation. And now I don't make those decisions. I'm very grateful to President Trump, Dana. And I sit here quite literally. I don't know how much more humbled I can get before people believe I'm humble or remorseful, but I can just do the best in my actions moving forward.
It's a pretty good little explanation. He's someone who I really didn't like when he was elected, but then, he became the most conservative voting person. Like he had the best voting record. Trump even mentioned that. Turns out he voted with me 100% of the time. Yeah. George Santos is committed to the MAGA cause. I'll tell you that. Okay? And I love his suit coat. I need to get myself one of those blue suit coats. I think it's kind of fun. Mike Johnson was asked about this because there's a lot of allegations coming from George Santos himself that Mike Johnson was kind of the one who ran him out of the caucus and ended up kind of allowing him to get voted out, that he didn't rally the wagons around him to try to at least keep his vote in Congress. And he had a little something to say about that this
President in issuing the pardon, or it's clemency, the clemency, he said at least Santos had the courage, conviction, and intelligence to always vote Republican. I looked through this. There have now, I think we have a list of them, 10 former Republican members of Congress who the president has either pardoned or issued clemency for. 10.
Okay, you want to talk about what Joe Biden did with that power?
No,
he pardoned his own family. The only thing he signed, by the way, with his own pen. Everything else.
First of all, most of these guys are old and had long since served their time by the time Trump got around to them, right? So these aren't exactly like George Santos was the only one that was.
Some of these stock photos are black and white.
I know. Post-humanist commutations, right? Now, this is not unusual. I bet if you went and looked at Bill Clinton, he's got a couple politicians from, eras past that he pardoned as well. But whatever.
Yeah, but categories of...
I have clearly being a beneficiary of a presidential pardon. I have zero issues with.
What's the difference between a pardon and clemency?
Clemency is just you get to go home, but you're still a convicted felon, and your sentence is over. The time owed to the government has been wiped away, and it can actually be like you can get your prison sentence commuted, and then now you go on probation. So the president, whoever, or the governor, whoever signs the order of clemency, can determine what your new sentence is. Or usually when they do clemency, it's you're released, but you're still convicted. You're still a felon. You still got to deal with, I can't have a gun, all that kind of stuff. A pardon is absolute innocence. It's, it's on the record, but it's, you have all your rights restored 100%. So I have a pardon.
Right. So Santos got a similar judgment, similar sentence, but his release was different.
He got commuted. Yep.
Right.
In fact, I'm just going to ask Grok. How many total presidential pardons have been issued in the U.S.? Don't count the Civil War era or the draft dodgers. So if you don't count the Civil War pardonings, where they just blanket pardoned all the Confederates, and if you don't count the draft dodgers, which was an undetermined number of just stop looking for draft dodgers, right? Based on the official record of U.S. pardon attorney, Jimmy Carter's, so there have been a total in the United States ever of presidential pardons, 37,255.
Ooh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot bigger number than I was anticipating.
All right, but now we're going to do the real test, so we actually know.
Okay.
How many confirmed lightning strikes on people in the USA since 1776? I want to know if it's better odds than getting struck by lightning.
There's going to be way less people getting struck by lightning.
I don't know, man. We'll see. Let's see.
37,000? Come on.
Fatalities 25 to 37,000.
What?
Yeah. Injuries 50 to 100,000. Total confirmed strikes on people 75,000 to 135,000.
Holy
I got
fuck.
a presidential pardon, which is more rare than getting struck by lightning. I've met 2 people in my life who've been struck by lightning. That's what this is all about.
Perspective.
Getting a presidential pardon is almost 3 times as less likely than getting struck by lightning in the United
Especially
States.
if you're a peasant.
Especially if you're a peasant, yeah. Now, if you're a former Republican congressman, it's probably like 80% chance you'll get one, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Now, Chris Christie, he doesn't think this is very cool. He thinks Trump is running a capo regime, arresting who he wants and releasing who he wants.
First off, let's just talk about the Letitia James prosecution specifically, and I'll get to the broader point.
Okay.
We're talking about even if you agree that she's guilty of something, which I think we have a long way to go on that, we're talking about a total loss of $1,800.
$18,000.
No, George, because that's $18,000 over the life of the loan. She's only had the loan for 5 years. So you can't charge somebody for something that they would have gotten 30 years from now. If she sold the house, she wouldn't get the entire benefit of the lower mortgage rate. Here's the difference between Trump 2 and Trump 1. And I'll say it more directly than Sarah did. This is no longer, the Department of Justice is no longer the premier prosecuting office in America. What it is now is a capo regime who goes out and executes hits when directed by the Don to do so. That's what it is.
The season of retribution is in full throttle.
Woohoo!
I want to say something in response to Mr. Christie. Okay. This is the stupidest thing ever. So if you go to the bank and you stick them up and say, I want $1 million, give me the money. And they give you a bag and you go outside and you open up the bag and there's only $10 in there. Does that mean you're only a $10 thief? Shut up. That's so stupid. You're a bank robber.
And the worst thing is it has everything to do, like, okay, tit for tat, right?
Yeah.
It has everything to do with what Letitia James did to Donald Trump.
Yes.
They had to change the constitution of the state of New York. They had to turn misdemeanor charges into felony charges by connecting them to federal campaign charges, of which the FEC said they're not crimes.
Right.
So you had to cite a felony, but never say the felony. The judge in his jury instructions said Donald Trump could have broke the law any one of three ways. It doesn't matter which way you pick. That's completely like you have to say, articulate how we broke the law, not, oh, we didn't like the results. So go ahead and just, if you feel like he's a criminal, go ahead and convict, and we'll just work out the details later.
Exactly.
So when Chris Christie's like, I was only $1,800, Donald Trump didn't steal a dime. He paid back all the loans in full. Nobody was offended at all. Nobody made a complaint. You guys went looking for something. You created something. You fabricated something. Fabricated it.
Right.
Right. So when they're like, oh, it's $18,000 mortgage difference, but you said it was a primary residence and it wasn't. That's perjury.
And what was the intention?
Matter what it is.
What was Letitia James's intentions when she checked that box?
I'll tell you what, when they sentenced me, they sure didn't sentence me by scale. They didn't go, oh, well, your whole incident was 12 seconds. And, the cop said you didn't hurt him. So, we just, nope, didn't matter. The guys who actually punched the cops and actually took batons and actually hit them, they were going home while I was heading into prison for many, many more years, right? Like there was no consistency. And you have to recognize in this current iteration of political lawfare that we're seeing, it's not Donald Trump who started it.
All of these indictments caused Obama the other day on a podcast to say that right now democracy is being threatened.
Yeah, no, he says that all the time. He's the one that threatened it by spying on my campaign. He started it. Obama spied on my campaign, and he did it knowing it was illegal. He knew it was illegal, but he started the whole thing, and there were a lot of dishonest people, and I suspect they'll be caught.
All of these indictments caused
I suspect they'll be caught.
I suspect. Hopefully. Shantini, good morning. I forgot to get to you earlier. Good morning from Texas. Carlites. Frazier, I've seen your comments all along. I just haven't gotten to them. Frazier, CNN has a liberal slant. Fox has a conservative slant. But MSNBC has so many untruths like poop in a cake analogy. Yeah, hey, would you like some cake? It only has a little bit of dog poop in it. I don't want any. John Atakis also says it's a good thing you are grounded, Taylor. Better than being hit by lightning. Yeah. That's going to be my new thing. Like I beat the odds. Donald Trump had another very powerful statement. Dad, cover your ears or hit the mute button. This is from the president of the United States directly.
Maduro offered everything in his country.
Okay, let me back up. I need to offer context. So now we're moving on to Venezuela and what's going on in South America, which, by the way, could be significant enough to affect our children and great-grandchildren, depending on how this whole thing shakes out, because it's not looking good. So Maduro has offered to cut ties with China and Cuba. In my opinion, impossible. Okay. But he's offered everything to the United States. They offered a stake in Venezuelan oil, a stake in Venezuelan minerals. Maduro has offered his country to Trump to stop whatever's happening. Remember, they authorized CIA use of force on the mainland. There's like 10, battleships and carrier cruisers, B-2 bombers are buzzing Venezuela.
And this is not like the right response for...
This is not the right response for interdicting a couple drug boats.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, no, they're blowing them out of the water right now.
Maduro offered everything in his country, all the natural resources. He even recorded a message to you in English recently, offering mediation. What should we do to stop that?
He has offered everything. He's offered everything. You're right. You know why? Because he doesn't want to fuck around with the United States. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
That's a mic drop.
That's the way to end the meeting. He doesn't want to F around with the United States. That's why he's offering everything.
Thank you and good night.
Yeah, thank you and good night. Now, this weekend, they destroyed a cartel submarine, and Trump was being asked about that because when they did this, there were 2 survivors on the submarine, one of them being a Colombian national.
Oh.
That was in a submarine, right? We attacked a submarine, and that was a drug-carrying submarine built specifically for the transportation of massive amounts of drugs, just so you understand. This was not an innocent group of people. I don't know too many people that have submarines, and that was an attack on a drug-carrying, loaded-up submarine. That was...
Yeah. So there's no remorse at all for doing that in any way, shape, or form. Now, J.D. Vance was asked about this, and J.D. Vance had a pretty Pretty simple statement. Hey, do you feel bad about killing the narco-terrorists?
It's important for the American people to recognize these are narco-terrorists who are trying to bring poison into our country and kill our citizens. What happens to them? I don't really care so long as they're not bringing poison into our country.
Okay, well, we want due process. Sorry. I think they have a little bit of an attitude shift. Now, Chanel Ryan, who used to be at OAN, and I don't know where she's at now, to be completely honest with you. She might be independent, but she's a great reporter. She went with Rudy Giuliani to Ukraine. She's kind of been all over a lot of the key stories that we followed, especially the in-depth ones, the election, the Ukraine gate, that kind of stuff. So she is explaining the relationship between Venezuela, China, Cuba, and what is kind of really happening down there in the South American theater. This is important, right? This is leading up to either quickly resolve itself, Maduro falls, some form of Republican form of democracy takes place in South America, or this is going to be a generational conflict. This is in our hemisphere. This matters.
Trump is officially 3-0 with China. Here's what nobody's talking about. China had a heavy investment in Iran. Trump neutered them. China had a heavy investment in Gaza. Trump secured a regional firewall. China straightforwardly controlled Venezuela for 2 decades. Trump's moving in and China's blinking for a third time. And that's why everyone is asking the wrong questions when it comes to Venezuela. The cover story is this. Trump's military buildup toward Venezuela is about countering narco-terrorism and targeting drug cartels like Tren de Agua, which are tied to the President Nicolas Maduro's regime. But analysts go a step further and they still miss the mark when they say, well, this is really about regime change. It's neither of these things. I mean, yes, we've got a drug problem, but it's actually ties to a much bigger issue. Trump's Venezuela offensive is much bigger. It's his proxy war against China. And he's the only president in history who is actually fighting China where it hurts. As of this week, Trump has positioned over 10,000 U.S. troops and 8 warships in the region. We have helicopters and Reaper drones taking out narco boats. We have F-35s, and Venezuela has scrambled their jets. And this week, Trump has authorized the CIA to carry out lethal operations in Venezuela. We'll dive into that one a little deeper in the next segment. All this to ostensibly go after drug boats and fight narco-terrorism. Yet everyone is taking this at face value. Listen.
Why not have the Coast Guard stop them, which it is empowered by law to do?
So Trump answers the question as asked.
Because we've been doing that for 30 years and it has been totally ineffective.
Even the ostensibly right-leaning National Review gets it wrong by musing that this is all about regime change. Here's why this whole Venezuela offensive is really about China. This is a shadow war against Beijing. The first in history that looks like it will actually work. You see, attacking Maduro is attacking Xi Jinping. To think that Maduro is some independent agent is naive and foolish. Why is Venezuela basically China? Well, follow the money, the oil money. Again, remember what I said yesterday about why China is likely the biggest force behind the Gaza war and promoting Palestine and Hamas protests around the globe? Remember, it's about taking advantage of bad leadership that sits over cheap oil and cheap resources. China sweeps in, buys out the leadership, gets free gas, essentially. Venezuela is the poster boy of this predatory China oil game. Beijing is Venezuela's largest creditor by far. Venezuela is over $60 billion in debt to Beijing since 2007. It pays Beijing back in, you guessed it, oil. Venezuela is economically paralyzed by sanctions. The only country supporting Venezuela meaningfully is Beijing because they're the primary buyers. This forces Venezuela to sell their oil for next to nothing, meaning they'll forever be indebted to Beijing. That's the whole game. That's the way China plays. In May 2025, at the China CELAC Forum, Beijing gave Venezuela an additional $1 billion in new oil investments, solidifying Venezuela's position as the front lines of the U.S.-China shadow war. But China's interests in Venezuela go far beyond cheap oil and economics. Chinese companies are neck deep in modernizing Venezuela's ports and telecom infrastructures. And as in all things related to Chinese companies, you're a fool to think the Chinese Communist Party does anything without making it a dual military civilian use project. I'll say it again. China does not allow its companies to operate in the world unless it could also be used for their national security purposes. So don't be fooled when Trump is using all this force and manpower and CIA expertise in Venezuela. This is Trump taking the war to China. He's doing what no other president before him was even remotely capable of accomplishing. Trump is declaring war on China's most valuable assets: Iran, Venezuela, Gaza. What do these tin pot dictatorships have in common? They'd be nothing without the Chinese Communist Party. And China would be nothing in the geopolitical stage without them. And now Trump is taking them. Iran, Gaza, and now Venezuela. 3 strikes. You're out.
Woo! Do you think they pull Cuba back from the dust? China's putting missiles in Cuba. Well, they already have listening stations there. They probably do have missiles there.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. So Chanel is seeing through this. It's just about drugs. Drugs are the weapon. Drugs are the bullet, right? And China has been arming Venezuela, Colombia, Mexico in order to bring drugs in because they know.
Her commentary makes so much sense.
They know one 20-year-old dead on the side of the street in Philadelphia is one 20-year-old that's not fighting them in a rice paddy somewhere, right?
Yep.
I mean, they understand that. New York Times had this article this weekend, which not a lot of great stuff out of this article. So shout out to the silly author who wrote it, Simon Romero, Genevieve Glatzky, and Colin Cano Youngs. I wish I could be the third guy on a byline like this. Colombia's leader accuses U.S. of murder, prompting halt to aid. So remember that submarine that got blasted out of the water?
Uh-huh.
Well, there's a feud between these two leaders. The feuding between the two leaders reflected rising tensions in the region over a huge U.S. military deployment in the Caribbean targeting Colombia's neighbor, Venezuela. U.S. forces have killed dozens of people in recent weeks aboard vessels the Trump administration say were ferrying drugs from Venezuela. The administration has provided no evidence to support the claims beyond descriptions of intelligence assessments and declassified videos of portions of the attacks.
They're calling those guys fishermen.
Did the New York Times ever ask about the weapons of mass destruction in the Middle East? Did they ever ask for any evidence or support? Or is it just intelligence? That's okay. Well, maybe they've learned their lesson this time and they're asking questions. I don't know. Legal specialists have called such killings illegal because militaries cannot lawfully target civilians who do not pose a threat in the moment and are not directly participating in hostilities. Okay. Fentanyl on our streets is hostilities. U.S. government officials have committed a murder and violated U.S. our sovereignty in territorial waters, wrote Petro, who is the president of Colombia, on social media. He said the man killed in the mid-September attack, Alejandro Carranza, was a lifelong fisherman whose boat had experienced damage and was adrift, probably in Colombian waters at the time of the attack. His description of Carranza and his boat could not be immediately confirmed or denied. Mr. Trump responded by accusing Mr. Petro of not doing enough to curb the production of illegal drugs, calling him a, quote, illegal drug dealer. With a fresh mouth toward America. Mr. Trump also said that the United States would halt aid payments to Colombia, which has long ranked among the largest recipients worldwide of U.S. counter-narcotics assistance. He later told reporters on Air France that he would announce new tariffs on Colombian goods coming on Monday. The two presidents have a stormy relationship since the start of the second Trump administration, when the Colombian president wanted to turn around an aircraft with deportees on it, and Trump called him and said, "You're taking them." So it's hot in Colombia. It's getting hot. It's getting really hot in Venezuela. I'm just saying the Gulf of America is starting to look like a battleground.
Gulf of America.
Yeah, the Gulf of America is getting hot. We are liberating the Gulf of America, bringing freedom to it, just like we do everywhere.
Make the Gulf of America great again.
Make the Gulf of America great again. Pew, 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 pew. So this is Marco Rubio commenting on the strikes on the boats from Venezuela.
Because interdiction doesn't work. You want to stop these drug cartels, you have to make clear to them they're not going to get their boats here. Interdiction, they don't care about losing a boat. They don't care about losing some drugs. They've already factored that into their business model. What will stop them completely is that they know if they go out there, they're not going to make the journey. Look, this is an imminent, immediate threat to the United States. If you tell me there's a boat full of drugs headed towards the United States to drop off drugs here and poison our people, that's as big a threat as if some, country was coming in to attack an American city. It needs to be stopped. The way it's been handled in the past hasn't worked. And boy, let me tell you something. You're not seeing nearly as many boats right now as you were a couple weeks ago. So it has worked and will continue to work. And the president's very simple. He's not going to continue to allow these drug cartels to flood America with poisonous drugs that are killing our people indefinitely. Because interdiction.
Thank you, Marco Rubio. When I was in prison, one of the saddest things was just how much drugs were devastating our communities. Like, I don't know, it felt like 80% of the people in there had a drug connection.
Yeah.
You know, the violent crime, the armed robbery, even the sex offender stuff. A lot of times there was a mom that was on meth. There was like, dude, drugs just creates carnage. So I support them in popping narco. Dude, if you're traveling across the Gulf of America in a boat with cocaine on it, I kind of felt this way with felons that got caught with felon with a gun. I'm like, but you always knew you couldn't have a gun, right? Yeah, my Second Amendment, right? Yeah, but you knew, like, if you got caught with a gun, it wasn't going to be good, right? Well, yeah, but my neighborhood's really rough. Yeah, but you knew, like, you knew that this was the potential price of carrying a gun as a felon, right? Well, yeah, but it's like, dude, don't drive cocaine across the Gulf of America. It's not a good idea. You know what I mean? Like, you might die. You probably will die right now.
Even if you're doing it while you're out fishing.
Even if you've got a tuna on the line, you're still going to get blown up if there's cocaine in the boat, right? It doesn't really matter at that point.
They're not checking your bait box.
Yeah, no. Officer, I'm just trying to go on vacation with my family. The methamphetamine, that's just coincidental.
All of my paperwork.
That's recreation. I'm not distributing. I'm not crossing straight lines with a distributable amount of meth. It doesn't mean it's for distribution and not personal use.
This is personal use.
This is personal use Coke. Yeah. Give me a break. Literally, people in prison that got caught for, crossing state lines with methamphetamine. It was all personal use. It wasn't for distribution. It was like, so you are a drug addict. Well, yeah, of course. Why would I have that much meth if I wasn't?
What do you think I got 5 million hits for?
Yeah, exactly. Now, on the topic of the election, Patrick Byrne, who's really one of our go-to sources because he's been involved in all the really high-level cybersecurity stuff, obviously with Tina Peters helping her take copies of those.
Is she still in jail?
Machines. She is.
Jeez.
Yeah. So this is Patrick Byrne, and he's talking about there's a hero that's kind of been unnamed up till now that I think history will look kindly on. It's this Serbian who basically stopped the 2024 election steal.
Hello. I believe that when the smoke clears and the dust settles, historians are going to understand this trailing 10-year period as an attempt to overthrow the American Republic and end the American experiment. They came at us in many directions at once in a Maoist total society of warfare approach, key among them being lawfare. And the most central case of lawfare was the Jack Smith investigation of Donald Trump, a ridiculous investigation. But people should know that was partially disrupted and delayed and such by a federal whistleblower suit that got filed against Jack Smith last December based on the affidavits of 4 Eastern Europeans that it was my honor to hunt down and help and get affidavits from. Those Eastern Europeans had the following story: that Jack Smith, when he had been, before he was special counsel for going after Trump, he had been this special prosecutor going after crimes from the Yugoslavian Civil War. That was 98, 99. And what he was really doing, according to these whistleblowers, was he used his position there, the special counsel's office in The Hague, to send goons over to Eastern European folks and say, basically, look, I know that in this Yugoslavia Civil War, you did this, you did that, you murdered some people. But if you will put $1 million in a briefcase and send it back with me to Jack Smith, your problems will go away. As little as 400,000, as much as 10 million. Those affidavits we obtained let us file a federal whistleblower suit in December of 2023 against Jack Smith. That's when the wheels started to come off his whole program. In fact, something funny happened, which is going to be interesting when we get to the bottom of it. Our federal whistleblower lawsuit initially received a written response from the DOJ. It was sent to 5 different inspector generals in D.C. We got one written response from the DOJ saying, we've looked into this, we've decided to have whatever it was before he was back as the special counsel. Now it's none of our business, which is a silly response. But it was wrong because it was written. It should have been email. And we looked into it and there was no record of it, which means somebody impersonating the DOJ responded from within the government. It was either the CIA or the White House. It'll be interesting to find out who someday. Anyway, Hallett is a hero, and his key testimony helped shoot the tires out from under Jack Smith's investigation and delay it long enough for us to get where we are. the American Republic should know about him. Thank you.
Truth is stranger than fiction. Right. So I've been following Patrick Byrne since the day he got on TV and resigned from Overstock.com and said that he offered a bribe to Hillary Clinton and that he was a part of the Russiagate thing. And James Comey's probably his pants right now that I'm on TV talking about this. Right? I've been following him since that moment. He's always been right. He's always trending in the right direction. He's tracking down Serbs to get these affidavits to slow down Jack Smith's investigation. Right. It's like him and his little band of cohorts, 2 dozen people, are probably going to go down in history as the Paul Reveres. The people that were just this unassuming guy writing, the British are coming, the British are coming. Here's Patrick Byrne being like, it's the Chinese and the Venezuelans. and they're dropping stories to Chanel Rion and OAN and Newsmax and anybody they can to kind of get this out there. In fact, they've been pretty effective at it. And up till now, the party line for the Democrats is there's nothing wrong with the voting machines. We like them. Right. Even though before you had Kamala Harris and so many others like the voting machines can be hacked. Don't worry about the voting machines. Well, now that Dominion has been sold to a conservative, there seems to be a little bit of chatter. Patrick Byrne says if this is true, I hereby reach out to any such Democrats in Congress. We have the goods on Dominion. And so what this is coming from the Amuse account, who consolidates news reports, but this is pretty good. Democrats spreading ironic conspiracy theories about Dominion voting machines. After Scott Lidendecker, a former Republican election official, purchased Dominion voting systems, prominent Democrats have sounded the alarm. Newsweek, Wired, and the Associated Press have reported that Democrat election officials have expressed concerns that Lidendecker, now in control of the company, could rig elections in favor of Republican candidates. I know. We might have bipartisan consensus to get rid of the machines.
How is it even possible? I didn't know you could rig anything with these things.
I didn't know you could rig electronics.
They're totally safe.
That is insanity. How is this? What is going on?
That's incendiary language.
I know. And all of a sudden, the Democrats are in on it. Now, Patrick Byrne just reiterating that all of this election shenanigans ties back to China. Ooh, I hate it when it buffers right.
Makes us look
let her rip.
Squares.
Click. Yeah, it makes us look like amateurs. Like we don't
even on this election stuff. And I've been saying for 4 years, all roads lead to China. They do lead to China, but they also lead to CIA cooperation at the top. The top of the CIA was absolutely involved in this and this stuff. They knew about it. I think that that's where the trail really leads. That's something that we have to face. They have fought teeth, toes, and fingernails these last 4 months to bowdlerize, would be the term, to sanitize Tulsi's official report. I know the information she was given. I know the masses of federal agents involved in hoovering up a massive quantity of information from quite a large number of people of all kinds of nationalities. And it got churned through the machine and the CIA went ballistic. There was $1 billion loan from China to take care of it. But I've also been told in recent research, there's evidence that CIA coordinated that.
The CIA potentially coordinated that Chinese loan to Fox. Is that the one you're talking about?
That's her. I heard from some of the research being done. I don't know the details on that one. And so not enough to know whether I can hang my hat on that, but it came from our good research channels.
I will say there's more people speaking up about the potential agency.
So the agency is working with China to overthrow the USA government. Doesn't even sound unreasonable.
What? I know.
Doesn't even sound outside the realm of possibility, right? And that China, with CIA coordinating, paid Fox News the money to settle with Dominion to make it look like, oh, we did in fact slander your company.
This sounds like we're reading a script that Jason Bateman should be starring in.
You know what sounds like a script? If we go back in time and we remember 2020, sometimes it's good to go back and refresh ourselves to see how crazy these people were on TV. Just go back in time and think about this psyop. Think about how we got where we're at, how so many Americans were lied to. You know, our trust in the fourth branch of government, the press, had been weaponized against us. Just imagine living through this again now, knowing what you know now.
President Trump wrote on Twitter, "Don't be afraid of COVID. Don't let it dominate your life."
Don't let it dominate your life.
In terms of responding to a comment like that, it's gross.
It's okay to be afraid of COVID, and it's okay that it's dominating your life.
Everyone should be afraid of COVID.
You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free.
I can't come in, Mom. It's because of this flu thing.
We won't be free of this pandemic until we listen to the acknowledged truth. Listen to the scientists.
Science is truth.
You know, science is truth. What is the impact to public health when people are openly questioning the science? Now is the time to do what you're told.
By not hearing the truth, by not listening to the scientists, they are prolonging how bad the economy will be.
When I see somebody out in the world who's not wearing a mask, I instantly think you are a threat, or you are selfish, or you are a COVID denier, and you definitely haven't been vaccinated.
What does it say? Are you vaccinated? I am triple vaccinated. So why are you wearing the mask?
Seek out the scientists and listen to their advice.
Listen to scientists. Listen to the scientists.
Trust the experts.
We're going to trust science. We're going to trust the experts. Parents who say, well, I need to do my own research, makes you think of that cartoon I saw of the tombstone that said, I did my own research.
Republicans have given their voters license to believe whatever they want to believe.
Heard somebody saying, listen to the scientists. Do that.
Let's listen to the scientists.
That phrase, do your own research, it's popping up a lot in conversations about coronavirus and about COVID vaccines. Doing your own research, it seems so innocent, but it can have serious consequences. Renee, what are the roots of this phrase? I feel like I used to hear it around QAnon craziness.
If some jerk exposed my mother to COVID because they didn't want to wear a mask, I would want to kill them.
We can watch the experts, but we shouldn't be listening to Trump, a non-medical professional.
Well, the answer is listen to Bill Gates. Bill's right around about a lot of things, and he's a steep learning curve in global health.
And we're really seeing just how important it is to follow science.
Yes, exactly. And we need to listen to scientists.
The idea that people are questioning the science behind the vaccine.
The science checks out. Even if you don't believe in the science, you think you're tough enough and you're healthy enough and you're young enough. The scientists were right all along. Eventually, the science catches up with you.
Are we doing more harm than good by questioning the science behind J&J?
Trust that vaccine.
Trust the experts.
Listen to the medical experts.
Trust the experts. If you don't understand the science, you don't know what you're fighting.
Just let the experts speak.
So maybe you should just shut up right now.
You don't want to take advice from your golf buddy or from your aunt. You want to listen to the scientists.
Can we all stop saying, I need to do my own research?
You see the ultimate effect when you don't listen to the scientists.
This isn't about being scared. This is about scaring us straight.
Science, and science. Only listen to the scientist.
If we follow the science, imagine, instead of staying locked up in their rooms, they're able to hug their grandchildren. This isn't about freedom. It's about freedom for your neighbors.
You can give each other a hug as long as everyone is fully vaccinated.
Listen to the scientists like the rest of us.
We have to listen to the scientists.
We'll listen to the scientists.
Every scientist, every expert, listen to the experts.
I'm starting to feel we should take the opposite advice. Like, I'm starting to feel maybe I should do my own research. I don't know. Doug Wyatt said it best. He goes, you really want to make someone do something, tell them they can't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell them not to do it. That'll pretty much guarantee they'll do it.
I think there's a meme going around like that, like, don't eat poop.
Democrats, don't eat poop. Yeah, exactly. Pretty stunning. When you go back in time and you look at what those people tried to throw down our throats, and I do call them those people, because they're borderline inhuman. Right?
Oh,
when you
they're
think
sociopaths.
Yeah, sociopathic. And in complete denial that they did that just a few years ago. No kings. Put on your mask. No kings. Take your vaccination. No kings. You can't protest masks, but you can protest George Floyd. No kings.
Exactly.
Totally ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. All right, guys, it is about time for us to jump over to private. We've got a couple videos left to go. We are going to hear from Dan Bongino. We're going to hear from Eric Trump. We're going to hear a little bit from Laura Trump and Dan Scavino, the new guy in charge of hiring. And we're going to hear from Scott Bessent. And we're going to hear from a Canadian trade negotiator who is in a panic. Total panic. In fact, we're going to start out with that.
Oh, good one.
So let's jump over to private. And those of you that have been with us since the beginning, thank you so much. Those of you in private, we'll see you in a minute. Bye.
Yes.
Woo. Take a breath. That was a quick transition, actually. Okay, so this is a trade negotiator for Canada. And